Welcome to the final theme, transitions. Thank you for taking along this far. I hope you have learned some new information or strategies you can try at home. For our last audio recording, we will be discussing transitions. Here is the content of everything we will be covering today. What is a transition and why is it important to address transitions? Why are transitions so hard? Understanding the difficulty of transitions and helping with transitions, which we will be discussing 3 proactive strategies that can be accomplished in order. First, trying preventative or preparation strategies. Next is concerning skills to teach that could be impacting a successful transition. And thirdly, individualized strategies that could be used for a specific transition that is hard. In addition, I have also added some after school and community strategies that could be beneficial for you and your child. What is a transition and why is it important to address transitions? Transitions are when children move from one activity, place, person to another. Everyday transitions include moving from brushing your teeth to brushing your hair and getting dressed. Why is it important to address transitions? It takes time to develop the skills to successfully transition. Children often spend a lot of time waiting until everyone has finished a snack, waiting for a bus or to be picked up, or waiting for their turn with a toy. Some children, and adults, have stressful and frustrating experiences during transitions. For example, this could be children arguing over who took out what toys and who should be putting them away. This could be children not knowing where to put certain toys when they are done with them, or children not knowing when it is their turn next to play with a toy. Transition routines, such as cleaning up toys before leaving or lining up at the door before heading out, may reduce the amount of time required for a successful transition. As children become more well-regulated and flexible in their transitions over time, then the transitions themselves will become easier. Also, many preschool teachers and other caregivers consider children's ability to independently make transitions between activities one of the essential skills needed in group contexts, such as kindergarten and preschool. Why are transitions so hard? Everyone struggles with transitions to some degree. It takes a lot of self-regulating skills to move from high arousal activities to more sedentary activities. For example, moving from running around outside to sitting attentively at a desk or table. So transitions, especially if they are unexpected or need to be done quickly, can be incredibly stressful for the brain and take a lot of underlying skills you may not have considered. I am going to provide an example of what a transition may all entail for your child. A transition requires executive functioning skills. To move to a new activity, children need a degree of cognitive flexibility. They need to shift their attention and focus first to your instructions, next to the new activity. They need to control their impulses, use their working memory in order to follow your instructions, regulate their emotions, and initiate the new task. They might also need to use their prioritization, motor planning, and organization skills, depending on what you ask them to do. And they need to do all of these things pretty much at the same time and with a super quick turnaround from one activity to the next. So no wonder the end result could be a meltdown. Transitions are super stressful for a still developing brain, and most young children simply do not have the skills they need to do it alone. They need support and co-regulation from a safe and trusted adult. Transitions can also be challenging for children because all the sensory input changes with each transition, and they may have a great deal of difficulty habituating or adapting to the changing stimuli, such as with visual, auditory, tactile, movement, and different smells. Think of when you are in an unfamiliar place and how much self-regulation it takes to adapt and get used to that new environment and everything going on in it. Also, being asked to switch gears is difficult, especially if you're being asked to change from something you enjoy to something that is not fun. Think about yourself for a minute. If you were watching the season finale of your favorite show or the Super Bowl and someone came in and stopped it to tell you had to do the dishes, you probably wouldn't be very happy. Your child experiences the same frustration when they are asked to change activities in their day. For them, their frustration may come from being asked to stop playing in order to get dressed or to get off the slide because it's time to leave the park. Transitions can be tough for everyone, but some children have more difficulty with them than others. If your child experiences whining, tantrums, frustrations, or meltdown during transitions, then they may need some extra help from you to learn how to transition successfully. Those behaviors that they are displaying are a way of your child communicating that transition is not within their ability right now. Those behaviors that your child is showing during that transition is a sign that their nervous system is struggling to make that adaptive response that this is safe. So their body is going to go into fight or flight. Through this PowerPoint, we'll be discussing some preventative strategies you can use to help your child feel successful in their transitions. Understanding the difficulty of transitions. Difficulty with transitions can occur for a number of reasons, such as when children are tired, hungry, confused, needing sufficient sensory input, or not ready to end an activity. Research states that difficulty with transitions is also common when children have communication delays, limited social and emotional skills, or intellectual disabilities. Difficulty with transitions is ultimately a difficulty with regulation. Transitions increase stress, and often they also require a child to shift their level of arousal. Most transitions require kids to either to increase or decrease their arousal level to meet the needs of the situation or their environment. They need to go from active, such as when they are playing, to calm, sitting in the car or at the dinner table, or from calm and alert in the classroom to more energized on the playground at recess, or vice versa. Your child's ability to regulate goes hand in hand with being able to understand their emotions, such as with managing fear, anger, or frustration. Children are not inherently born with these skills. They need to be shown and taught. Additionally, children with sensory issues are sometimes prone to emotional tantrums that they cannot control when they are overwhelmed by unexpected changes. By considering children's needs and abilities and planning accordingly, you can avoid problems at transition times. For example, instead of racing from one errand to another on a Saturday morning, you might plan a 20-minute break to play with your children between stops. Helping with transitions. There are several things that can be done to make potentially difficult transition times easier for parents and children. First, preventative strategies reduce the likelihood that transitions will be difficult or that challenging behaviors will occur. Second, occupational therapists and parents can work together to determine how to teach children the certain skills needed to make transition times more successful. Finally, there are specific individualized strategies that can be used when a specific transition seems to be difficult. Preventative or preparation strategies. In this section of the PowerPoint, we will be discussing various examples on ways to prepare for a transition and prevent a behavior. However, as previously discussed in past themes, the goal is to work through using a trial and error method for different transition strategies, which is a great way to discover what works for your child during different circumstances. Your strategies should be adapted to meet the needs of your child. These are some general strategies you can try. First example is giving warnings. You can't expect children to stop when they are doing what they are doing on a dime. By giving warnings, children are able to anticipate the change that is coming and get ready for it. You can use countdowns. Countdowns can be used for time or turns. You can count down in seconds or let them know how many turns are left in an activity. You can also use a visual timer for longer periods of time to provide warnings. Visual timers are great because your child can see the timer counting down. With using the timer, you can make the timer the bad guy by providing plenty of verbal and visual reminders for the remaining amount of time, and place blame on the timer instead of mom or dad. Timer says we have 10 minutes. Timer says we have 5 minutes. Timer says we have 3 minutes. Timer says we have 1 minute. Uh-oh, timer went off. Have your child push the button to turn the timer off. You can build off of that and say things like, ugh, man, I wish we could play more, but the timer says all done. Then follow through with the transition and stay with the timer. Try not to provide an extension in time, such as saying, okay, another 5 minutes. By not providing extensions, it can decrease future backtalking or compromising attempts and manipulations from your little ones in the future. The final example for giving warning is that you could use a calendar, so your child can emotionally prepare for changes over days or weeks. For example, you might make a calendar that shows which days are childcare days, school days, or stay-at-home days. You can also use a calendar for different meals you could be having throughout the week. Another preparatory strategy is using visual cues or a visual schedule. For younger kids, use a picture schedule or individual visual cues. For older children, using a more of a visual schedule. Visual cues can be posted near transition locations. For instance, picture cues near the front door might contain photos of a coat, hat, and boots to prompt a child to get ready to go outside. They are used to give your child a preview of what is coming next. Schedules can be used for a short period of time or for the whole day. When using picture cues for a mini schedule, pointing towards visual cues or creating a visual schedule to try and avoid open-ended questions. Open-ended questions give your child the opportunity to say no when no isn't actually an option you like to give them. Instead of saying, would you like to clean up your toys? Say, would you like to clean up your toys in 2 or 3 minutes? Instead of saying, what should we put on your visual schedule today? Say, For number 1 on your visual schedule, would you like to do blocks or Legos? Instead of saying, do you need to go potty, say, first let's try to go potty, then we'll go play outside. Giving your child structured choices lets them have a say in what they are going to do. Next, routines. Developing routines and building structure around transitions helps your child to anticipate what will happen next. For example, kids will go to bed with less fuss if they are used to a bedtime routine. Once you have a good routine developed, then begin to try to playfully obstruct the routine or slightly alter different tasks. You may be thinking, why would I do this if I have developed a good routine? This is to help with rigidity and your child being flexible with transitions or changes in routine. This will help with different transitions that happen in school. Next, giving choices and keep directions simple. Providing your child with choices gives them a sense of power and control, which can reduce their frustration. For example, if you want your child to get dressed, offer a choice. Do you want to wear the red shirt or the blue shirt? Try and give one direction at a time so it is not overwhelming. Also, less communication is better for transitions. However, when giving choices, this will require your child to not be in fight or flight. This can be used as an initial strategy. However, it is not the best strategy to be utilized when your child is showing signs of distress. This strategy can be modeled with older siblings to help your child to understand the concept. Another preparatory strategy is to incorporate sensory play into transitions, such as after roughhousing with dad, then crawl through a tunnel into the kitchen and play with Play-Doh at the table to transition to dinner. You can also offer proprioceptive or vestibular input before transitioning, or providing your child with a sensory break before a task that requires sustained attention. Or a sensory break can be provided if you see your child wanting movement during a task. Things you could say, for example, are, let's write one more letter, then we can take a break to move our bodies. All children benefit from sensory or movement breaks, but they are especially awesome to use between transitions in an activity or before tasks that require focus. Next is a transitional object. A transitional object is something that can occupy a child during a tough transition, such as a stuffed animal or a fidget. Have your child hold an object when it's time to transition. There may be an object that naturally fits the setting, such as holding their backpack when they are leaving home to go to school, or a favorite toy can be used. Weighted stuffed animals are a great transition toy because they provide deep pressure input, which can be calming for children. Try to use the same object every time so that the child gets used to seeing that object and associating it with a transition. Try having the transitional object by the door and taking it to the car when it's time to go. Hey, let's go grab our dino. A suggestion for school is that this can also be something as simple as a post-it note from one teacher that says hi to the other teacher. Children respond really well to having a delivery job to do. Another example would be giving them a book to put on a shelf in the room you want them to move to, such as saying, put the book on the shelf. Here's another slide on some more preparatory strategies. Relaxation techniques, such as deep breathing before transitioning. Role models. You can also use older kids, friends, or adults as a role model to aid in successful transitions. If you want a younger child to put blocks away, you can have the older child put a few blocks away, then encourage your child to help as you assist in putting the blocks away also. Planning ahead. Have materials and activities on hand to transform wait time into fun learning time. For example, when standing in a long line at a store or when driving in the car, play I Spy to find objects that are a particular color or begin with a specific sound. Have quiet toys to use while waiting, such as word puzzles, books, or crayons and a coloring book. You can also try to have all necessary items ready before signaling your child for a transition. For example, have the bath ready, shoes gathered, or apples out for snack time prior to calling a child to the activity. Auditory transition tools. You can use music, songs, or predictable noises to signal transitions. A routine cleanup song can be used when it is time to pick up toys. Set a timer to indicate that playtime is ending, and soon it will be time to clean up for dinner. However, be mindful that if your child struggles with auditory input, this may not be the best strategy to utilize. If using a device that makes sound for a transition, be sure to let your child know ahead of time that when it goes off, it will be making a beeping noise. You can also use cognitive transition tools. This could be a first-then statement or developing a transition mantra. With using a first-then statement, you can prep with a 5-minute verbal warning, then a 3-minute verbal warning, then a 1-minute warning, then utilize the first-then language. When initially utilizing the method of first-then, begin with a preferred task or activity, such as First, a preferred or fun instruction, such as first, high five, then cookie, and reward with another positive reinforcer. This will motivate your child to follow a simple instruction with the promise of a reward after. Do this over and over again to develop trust and rapport, then eventually transition the task into a non-preferred instruction paired with a positive reinforcement. Secondly, you can develop a transition mantra. When the timer goes beep beep, it's time to move our bodies to clean up. Or when the timer goes beep beep, be nice to mom and put on shoes. Ask your child throughout the day what happens when timer beeps in order to prepare them for the transition. You can also turn transition times into games. Create a dance or engage in pretend play about what a child is going to be doing next. For example, children can be encouraged to fly to the sink like superheroes to brush their teeth, or hop to the car to leave, or dino steps to the kitchen. Try incorporating a fun game or a play routine while transitioning such as with the bathtub. You can play the cleanup game by naming a toy and having the child throw the toy from the bathtub into the clean up basket. Dry it off, and then eventually have the child throw themselves out of the tub and dry them off and toss them on the bed. Something else to consider is making a positive correlation between non-preferred stimuli, such as a car seat, by taking the car seat inside and using it within different games, such as with pass the balloon back and forth from the car seat, or using the car seat in multisensory play. This creates a positive correlation for the stimuli. The main goal of preventative strategies is to help children understand adults' expectations for transitions so that challenging behavior is less likely to occur. Try and be consistent, present, and prepare for the follow-through. If you say that it's time to go, don't take the phone call or go and help the next child. If you do this, then your child will have a hard time understanding transitions. They may think that you don't really mean it or that they have more time, which could result in you becoming frustrated when you return and see that they have not started to clean up. So try and do your best to maintain in that moment. Another piece of this is the enabling piece, where I get that it is way easier to go and do the job yourself, but in doing all of this, the transitions, the walking them through the task, and helping them understand language, we are trying to teach them a skill as opposed to enabling them. So sometimes natural consequences come into play where they didn't do what they were asked to do. So now we ran out of time to maybe do something that they wanted to do. Praise when they've done it. I really liked how you put that toy away. You want to give a lot of praise because it is more powerful than negative. This slide is some examples of some visual timers or visual schedules or cues. The image with the duck is a children's countdown timer, and it is in the App Store that has different images that appear when time is up. The next thing we will be discussing under the help with transition section is skills to teach. While preventative strategies are helpful, over time children need to learn to regulate their emotions and behaviors so that transitions are no longer difficult. Even if you have consistent, predictable routines in place and children know what is expected during transitions, challenging behaviors may occur when a child does not have the necessary skills to complete the tasks someone is asking of them. It is important to collaborate with your therapist so that your child can develop specific skills needed during problematic transitions. Consider the following. Consider if your child has a necessary skill for understanding directions and moving to the next activity when a transition is signaled. For example, you may consider, does my child know how to brush their teeth independently, or do they need assistance? What might I do, or what skills might I teach my child to assist them in getting dressed, or in cleaning up before bedtime? Talk with your therapist on challenges you see, but also practice those skills at home with your child. Try and provide descriptive feedback on how your child should perform the task that they are struggling with. For example, a child may be able to put their coat on, but might not know how to zip or button it. As a supportive parent, you can 1. Provide descriptive feedback once the child puts on his coat. You put your coat on all by yourself. 2, you can show your child how to zip or button the coat and encourage them to help. I know the zipper can be hard, so how about I hold the button of your coat and then help you zip it? 3, provide praise or descriptive feedback once the specific task has been completed and add a cue for the transition to begin. I like that you put on your hat and gloves all by yourself after we zipped your coat. I can tell you're ready to go to the store now. And finally, give feedback once your child makes the transition. You did a great job getting into your car seat. Now we can go to the pet store. You can also work on identifying emotions and teaching your child a variety of emotional words so they can express their feelings. Sometimes children have an easier time making difficult transitions when they are able to communicate their desires and emotions. Lastly, you can brainstorm with your therapist on some strategies for teaching your child problem-solving skills, so they learn to come up with alternative solutions to situations that arise. For example, a parent might ask a child, "What do you want to quietly play with while we take grandpa to the doctor's office?" So such questions help children consider variables like this toy makes music, so I can't bring it. Next, we will be discussing individualized strategies. These are strategies that can be used when a transition becomes difficult or when a child's behavior escalates. Even with preventative strategies in place and efforts made to teach new skills, there will still be times when transitions are challenging for some children. You can discuss these specific transitions with your occupational therapist, who can work with you on individualized suggestions. At home, you can work on games to target the specific transition, or you can model transition behaviors for your child. Keep in mind, from information discussed in our previous themes, the importance of remaining calm during difficult transitions. Refresh your memory on some co-regulating strategies you can use to support your child or ways to alter the environment, such as using a low tone of voice or sitting silently, mirroring calmness, decreasing auditory overload, and dimming the lights. Social stories can be beneficial for many children, especially those who struggle with transitions or novel tasks. Social stories can be used to help ease anxiety about a stressful environment or situation and give the child tools to cope with that anxiety. This is an example of a social story. Social story is a visual step-by-step plan of action for initiating a task or interaction and includes different variations of sentences. When writing a social story, try and describe rather than direct. It is written to support the child in learning about an event or a specific situation. The story has an introduction, body, and conclusion. Throughout the story, focus on answering what questions such as who, what, where, and when about the event or behavior. Try and answer questions about what others know as well. It can be written from either first or third perspective, but with younger children, it's best if written using I. The story includes descriptive sentences, important affirmative sentences, and perspective sentences as appropriate. Do your best to limit the amount of directive sentences. Here are some examples of how to use the different variations of sentences. Descriptive sentences state the facts. For example, one may write, "My name is Sarah," or "The teacher's desk is in the front of the room." If describing a timed event, try to incorporate a way out if the time changes. For example, instead of writing, "I have gym class every Tuesday," one should state, "On most Tuesdays, I have gym class. Some Tuesdays, there might be an assembly." Instead of specifying, "I go home on the bus at 3:15, a social story would read, "I usually go home on the bus at 3:15. Some days the bus might have a flat tire and be late." Perspective sentences reflect what other people know, think, or feel. They might read, "My teacher knows when it is time to go to lunch," or "The teacher will like it if I listen to her when she talks." Directive sentences remind the child of what he or she should be doing or what should be happening. Try to make sure that they are stated in such a way that the child will not fail the story if he or she is unable to do what it says. For example, one should read, "I will try to sit in my chair," rather than "I will sit in my chair." Affirmative sentences indicate a shared value or opinion in culture. They're used only if the adult is sure they are true for the child. An example might be, "It is polite to raise my hand before asking." Here are some after-school strategies that can be used to assist in reducing meltdowns and helping your child to stay regulated. First strategy is having a quiet space in the house. You can call it a cozy corner or calming corner. This could be a place in the house that's off to the side or like a pop-up tent, somewhere where they can go away from everyone and be in their own space. You can put things in there like a weighted blanket, lap pad, noise-canceling headphones, stress ball, beanbag chair, puzzles, Legos, visual timer, or lava lamp. Things that are relaxing and help regulate the nervous system. Try and practice using the calming corner and the sensory devices before the child gets home and they are dysregulated. Help your child to understand when they can use their calming corner. Then hopefully you won't have to verbally cue them as much over time. You can talk with them about Hey, your body's probably feeling a little bit overwhelmed from school. What do you think would be a good idea to calm your body down? And then help direct them to the activity. It can just become part of their daily after school routine. They don't have to even think about it. Initially, right after school, also try to give your child some space, free from questions and conversations. They may need some time to decompress right after school, but you can ask how their day was over dinner or during their nighttime routine. Another strategy is bubble mountain. All you need is soap and something like a bucket of water. You can even add food coloring as extra. Then provide them with a straw and let them blow bubbles. Just work on those deep breaths, the deep breathing, smelling the roses, and then blowing through the straw. You can let them do this more independently by giving them 5 to 10 minutes to just blow their bubble mountain and pop the bubbles. Or maybe they even want to grab some of their toys and use them in the play. When initially starting this, or if they are struggling, you can start by blowing into the straw, making a big bubble mountain. Then practice by having them blow the bubble mountain for you. Go outside and get some heavy work. This is going to incorporate two very calming, grounding activities. The first one is our heavy work, which is the proprioceptive input, but you're also going to be outside. And being outside in nature can be very grounding and calming. So activities like climbing on a jungle gym or tree, or hanging, hiking, biking, scooter, jump rope, or hopscotch, and even just laying in the grass and looking up at the clouds is giving them a lot of grounding input to their body. Next, snacks with intentional sensory input. Focus on providing snacks that provide specific sensory input, so snacks that are crunchy, chewy, maybe different temperatures, or a cold smoothie with a straw. Jerky, fruit leather, crackers, true fruit, apples, carrots and celery, dry cereal, sour spray, or intensely flavored foods, such as spicy or sour. The last strategy for after-school ideas is an obstacle course. This does not have to be something super elaborate. It can be a simple 2 to 3 step obstacle course that can include a function, so things like bouncing on pillows, then crawling through a tunnel to grab a puzzle piece, or then you blanket swing. However, try not to do that obstacle course immediately after getting home from school. You can use all of the after-school strategies we discussed together. Maybe your child goes to their cozy corner for a couple of minutes first, and then they go outside, and then they sit there and eat their crunchy snack, and then they complete an obstacle course. Getting their sensory system regulated before we ask them to do their homework, chores, or having an in-depth conversation will be beneficial for everyone. Next, we will be discussing some community strategies. You can think of individual sensory packs for the car per occasion, or having an emergency sensory bin with all different things in it for all kinds of different occasions. We will individually be discussing sensory objects you can have with 4 different scenarios. So, for example, leaving the grocery. You could have noise-canceling headphones to help make noise less overwhelming, such as with sounds of cars around, music, or siblings. You can have sunglasses, a spare coat, a weighted lap pad to provide calming pressure, or sensory calming bottles in your car to help with transitions. For leaving the park, you could have sticky notes so that you're able to cover the automatic flush and hand dryer sensor in public restrooms. You can have warm blanket, stress ball, a wide brim hat for heat and light, a portable timer to help with transitions, bubbles, books for silent reading or to look at the pictures, or to make transitions easier, you can provide vestibular input such as intense swinging, or proprioceptive input such as hanging, climbing, or having your child push or carry something to the car. This can help with transitions. Next, for leaving school, you can have hand lotion to soothe your child's need for touch, scented lip balm for calming and focusing the sensory system, putty for fidgeting and heavy work, portable wind shade to reduce visual distractions outside of the car. You could have a jump rope for a motor break before getting into the car, and coloring books and scented markers in your car to help with transitions. Finally, for leaving the gym, you could have fidgets, crunchy snacks, getting lots of vestibular proprioceptive input before leaving the gym for a successful transition. Here is some additional resources that can help with the social stories. So there is a book linked that has a lot of examples of social stories, and also there's a social story app where you can create your social story through the app. Thank you for your time, and here are the resources.